morning.
Welcome back to the show, April 18th, 2025.
What a day.
Always a day. So lots to catch up on this week.
Let's get right into it.
Let's get into it. You're back on Chessmith Hates Surfing.
Oh, back. Long hiatus. It's a time for our new season.
You hate it again. You ran out of
Yeah.
hate for a little while.
I ran out of hate. We had to stack up some hate, but I'm back.
Um, I interviewed somebody last week who's younger generation, and she's like, "Yeah, listen to the grit. Man, it's negative." And I was caught off guard a little bit, and I was like, yeah, what? Okay, like it. Is it actually? Are we so deep in it now that we don't understand, or we don't even realize the negativity, or is it? I like to, or is it the younger generation is more sensitive to, I don't know, strong opinions or something like that. Like I'm still a week later, uncertain on what whether she's correct or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a generational thing.
Okay.
Uh, Probably. I mean, we are negative, but right? I mean,
I think it's funny. Like at the end of the show, I don't feel like I have negativity permeating. I feel
no.
like I'm laughing about stuff, you know?
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I think that's what it is. I think it is negative, but negative is funny. And, making fun of stuff is funny, but I don't think that's funny to maybe not as funny to younger people.
Maybe not. Yeah. I was um I was like, I don't want it to come off, I guess,
Negative.
negatively. Like if that was her first experience, because I think that we obviously are addressing maybe critical issues in a little bit more critical manner than, I don't know, some other surf media outlet, trying to do a deeper dive with a more critical through a critical lens. But we do couch it in a little bit of a salacious bent, maybe. And if she's so put off by the initial kind of presentation of it that she never gets to the critical analysis part, then I was like, okay, maybe we can adjust slightly to make sure that she gets at least hooked into kind of the good portion of the show without being offended by the superficial part.
Maybe we need a whole new segment. It's sunny in the surfing world or something like that, where we just talk good stuff.
Always sunny and surfing.
Yeah.
That's such a great. Let me write this down. I'm glad we're discussing this now. That could be very funny.
Yeah. It's just a positive. We should start the show that way and get people suckered in like it's going to be a good time and then slowly bring them to the dark side.
I like it. Okay, cool. I'm going to work on this.
Great.
Um, Also, we want to mention right at the top of the show, go to Patreon. If you're not on Patreon, you are missing the best part of the show.
It's very true. And today, it's worth it today to sign up because there's a treat coming up.
Shea Somma, surfboard shaper Shea Somma is going to uh, illuminate or explain better than Chaz did the benefits and the values of the super mini or the mini super. I forget what he calls it.
Uh, the good is funny. I mean, you are around these people more than I am, or more of them than I am. Surfboard shapers. Surfboard shapers are some of the most intelligent, interesting, both emotionally, I don't know. There's surfboard shapers are great people.
I obviously agree. Where do you feel your understanding of surfboard design is if complete beginner kook is zero, and let's say, um, who's the best shaper around? I don't know, let's
Uh,
just say Britt Merrick
yeah,
is a 100, you know?
yes,
Where do you land on the understanding of surfboard design?
three.
Really?
Yeah, low, low down. Yes,
Okay.
like
Do
I
you know what
my
rocker is?
I do now finally after all
Okay.
these years. I know what rocker is. I know like shape, size, and thickness kind of is basically all I know. And by those things, I don't mean like the nuances of those things. I mean taller, shorter, fatter, thinner, wider, narrower. That's it.
Do you Can you see concave in a board?
Yes, but I have no idea. I get the theory of concave, but for example, like a double V versus a single concave, I have zero idea what is for what and why.
So that would be a double concave versus single, not double V. There is a
Yeah.
V, but that's not a double. Um, so I've almost, I don't know why, so much of that information for so many of my initial years of surfing just flew in one ear and out the
Yeah.
other. And I heard people saying the same things over and over and over again. And for whatever reason, they did not stick in my brain. And I think now, just in the last 10 years, I've matured enough, or I don't know, got intelligent enough to finally let those things absorb. And now they do make a lot of sense to me. Um, but I mean,
Have
I
they improved your
remember,
surfing?
yeah, to be honest, well, I think that my surfing has improved in certain ways. I don't know if it's directly related to that.
But you like, if you're going to get another board, you think, you know what? This concave and this rocker template and this fin setup and this whatever. This
Definitely
works for me.
not. No, definitely not. I always defer to the surfboard shaper for sure and give zero kind of direction. And now that I'm thinking about it, understanding probably hasn't improved my surfing, but it's improved my enjoyment of surfing.
Okay. You
Like
can
now that I have a better understanding, like if you watch a film and you understand, you know, the filmmakers who influenced this filmmaker and all that kind of thing, like you probably enjoy it a little bit better.
can can you feel the differences in concave, etc.
Yes.
When you're on a double concave versus a single concave, you think, "Ooh, I can feel that under my feet."
Yeah. Maybe not that specifically, but like I'll give the most primary lesson ever. And forgive me if I'm botching concave 101. But the idea with concave in a shortboard is, you know, or with all surfboard design, there's two elements that you're looking for: going fast and maneuverability. And those things are at opposition. So a flat surface goes super fast across the face of the water. Once you add rocker to the nose, you're now pushing water. But the good news with rocker is once you turn that board on its side, because of that curve, you'll be able to turn at a tighter turning radius than if it was just a flat board. So you want to bend those concepts slightly to get, a little of both or a lot of both. So when you have a shortboard that is rockered out like a banana, you're now pushing water and you don't have as much speed. But what concave does is it flattens the bottom. So you still get the benefit of rocker with the nose and the rails, but that flat line across the bottom creates kind of the hydroplaning element that you want. So you can go fast straight and then turn it on the side and benefit from the curve of the rocker.
Science.
So, so that's one element. So to answer your question, if the board has that kind of concave in it, and you do recognize the more speed that you're getting out of that shortboard than you did on the one that didn't have the concave in it, that's obvious. That's noticeable.
Okay. I'm going to start
Um,
paying attention to my concaves.
Anyways, what I was going to say is the first 20 years of my life, every board that I grabbed, which were all short boards, I would hold under my arm. I'd like put the nose on the ground, look from the tail down to the nose, trying to get different lights to see all these things. I had no idea what I was looking for. And even sometimes with the shaper, I'm holding it, I'm looking down, and I'm like, trying to act like I'm discerning.
Yeah.
I think I did have an admiration or a certain appreciation of the contours and the curves and all that sort of thing. Uh, I had no idea what I was looking
Yeah.
at. I
Man,
think that's common, right? Like most
yeah.
people don't.
I remember doing that. I remember going into a surf shop when I would get my a surfboard for my birthday or whatever, and I got to go pick it out, right? And going to the surf shop and really, yeah, looking, feeling, holding, this is the one. But having zero, you just only going on either gut or color.
Well, yeah, I guess the average person doesn't know, but they're also not going to just walk up and grab the board and walk out with it. You have to look at something. You have
Yeah.
to, like you have to. I mean, with a car, that's why people kick the tires. That
Yeah.
doesn't actually do anything to let you know the value of the car, but you got to kick the tires just because
Yes.
that's part of the process.
That's what you do. Yep.
Anyways, Shea Somma is going to really educate us on
Yeah.
the super mini and the mini super or super mini, whatever he calls it. It's basically the mini Simmons. but his version of it, his modernized version of it that Chaz has been writing, loving, and trying to explain to us what he loved
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
So go and grab that today on Patreon. I have one other follow up for you. Sam George, who you love to make fun of,
Great guy.
he's great.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Did you guys have a great conversation?
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Did he educate you with his, did he bathe you in his wisdom?
No, but he regaled me with his stories.
Yeah. And they were interesting and you were fascinated.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, look, I can't remember what you've made fun of in the past, but I think what I've heard just from other people is there's a certain level of him loving himself that
Yeah.
maybe is off-putting. And I got zero of that. Like he was totally engaged. He was a great listener. I mean, obviously we're there. We're recording a podcast to talk about him. So he did talk about him, but that makes my job super easy as
Yeah.
a podcast host, you know?
I got no beef with Sam George. My only the part that's fun to fun make about Sam George is just his style of writing. His like flowery prose that feels very unaware. Like
Gotcha.
him it always feels when I read Sam George, and I think this is what probably other people feel as well. Like Sam George has ascended the mount of wisdom and knowledge, and he is going to now share with us, the people, everything he has learned. He's going to
Yeah.
grace us, and that's the way his writing always comes across to me, which is very funny, I think. And if he's doing it
Yeah.
on purpose as shtick, that's even better.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
No.
But one thing I admire or appreciate was like his youth and identifying surfing, discovering it, falling in love with it was all centered around the idea of traveling, exploration of the world, and then surfing. You know, when you're that's kind of the goal to the reason why he's traveling, and he's lived his life that way. He's oriented his life so that he could do that, and that's admirable because I think that's what drew me to surfing when I first discovered it. But I've not exploited it as much as I could have, you know. And I've
did
made
it
other
did it
decisions in the last decade or two that actually have anchored me and prevented me from doing it.
did it give you pause? Did you think, in my third half, I'm going to go surf explore more robustly?
Def Definitely inspired me in that way for sure.
Great. Well, look at
So
Sam George getting after it.
like I think you can find a way to do it, you know, like
Sure.
regardless of um what your anchors are, family or finances or whatever, like there's a version of it that you can do.
I mean, in going back to our conversation from last week's show about the crew who found the keyhole and all that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's a version of local exploration. You don't have to leave the country to surf explore or wherever
Absolutely.
country you live.
Yeah, exactly. Go on a camp trip up the coast, you know?
Yep.
Okay, well, moving on into surf news. Bells started, El Salvador ended in the last time that we spoke. Do you have thoughts on either? Do you have a
No,
fantasy,
I
survival pick?
I don't have thoughts on either, but to cheer up those who think we're grouchy, I don't have thoughts either on either of them. El Salvador, I thought was so like it. It was just a problem, right? I think it was a problem on multiple levels.
Explain.
I mean, I think when you're running a surf contest over 8 days, when there's 8 days of the contest airing, that's just too much for anybody's attention span. Like something went wrong there, right? Like something was misapplied. I think El Salvador looks like a great country, looks like a great place to go visit. Uh, Even when the wave got good, it's just not very like, I mean, the whole point of this, right? You realize more and more, and as the World Surf League, I feel, has gone to worse and worse waves as the baseline, going straight from somebody said it on the beach creek comments. Oh, great. We get now three soft point breaks in a row, right? El Salvador to Bells, then to Burley Heads, like three, and they're fine waves, but none of them are world class waves, right? I mean, I guess
Um,
some would argue that Bell's is, but that's more based on
Definitely.
history than on the wave itself.
Bell's is the least world class out of all of those waves. I mean,
Yeah.
when it's on, really on, it gets obviously really good. And when on the maybe the day before the finals or the finals day in El Salvador, when it really turned on, that was thrilling to watch, I thought. Um, it's still not J Bay and it's still not Cloudbreak.
Yes,
It's still
exactly.
not Pipeline.
It's and so running in these kinds of conditions with and it's just again, I mean, we've oh negative the negative hose is coming on. You're watching the world's and I suppose that's what it is now. It's not the world's best surfers on the world's best waves anymore. It's the world some of the world's good surfers on some of the world's good waves. And that's just not that interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like give me a slam, give me a 2 day best surfer in the world on a wave on its best day. And that's what I want to see. And that's not what the tour is anymore.
No, it isn't. And we've identified that obviously. I still have find value in it. It ran over the weekend, so I just put it on the big screen and it was perfect background viewing. I mean, I don't know where we talked about Meghan Markle's show on Netflix
Oh yeah.
where she's just making like, I don't know what,
Yeah.
baskets and hand-drawn invitations for dinner party, garden parties or something. But the commentary that I saw online about that show was it's perfect background viewing when you're
Yeah.
doing the dishes, when you're moving around the house, the vacuum's on for 5 minutes, so you miss some audio, but you're not too worried. You don't have to pause it.
Yeah.
Like it is just soft focus, whatever on the background. That's what the WSL event was for me last weekend, and the best version of it.
Yeah. It's just sitting there. I mean, I totally way to be positive, way to put a positive spin on El Salvador. Uh, I mean, that's the yeah, I guess as background noise too, you just turn off the commentary.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I had, I definitely wasn't paying attention to it. I
Yeah.
might have had it on low or something like that. Well, Bell's Beach started last night or yesterday for us. Um,
Who's
it,
your survival?
Ethan Ewing,
Good call.
safe
Good
bet.
call. Safe bet. Yeah, it's always good to go safe bet. I feel I would not get too fancy in the survival.
Yeah. Well, safe bets have burned people before. John at Pipe, I think last year, the year
Yeah,
before. Griffin Colapinto at any given
everywhere.
spot. Yeah. But I feel like I've got some mojo this year. I don't want to jinx it yet, but I've made it further or farther than I ever have before. And I'm feeling good about it. And so I came into this event and I'm like, who's looking spicy and could be kind of a dark horse is George Patar.
Yeah,
Maybe Rio Wida. Rio Wida, every event, I'm like, wow, look at him. He's incredible. So I'm like, a long right hand point break. Those guys look really, really great there. Nobody's going to pick George Batar. If there's a major shakeup, which there seems to be in every event, Felipe Toledo losing at El Salvador this last event, that eliminated a huge amount of the fantasy team. I don't want to go down with everybody else.
yeah.
So maybe I pick a George Patar. And then I pulled up survivalleague.com, was going to make the George Patar pick, and I saw Ethan Ewing sitting right there. And I'm like, how could I not pick Ethan Ewing?
It's true. It's true. I mean, I feel you could pick George Patar for Burley.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and because
I'll keep that.
you can test the waters with Patar too. You can see how he does at Bell's. You can pretend like you're in the casino, standing next to the roulette table, pretending like you put all your money on black.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will. I'll be keeping tabs. I have been keeping tabs too, pretending along the way. Um,
George
but
Patar rides CIs, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Like every time he comes on, I'm thinking, oh, who is this again? And then I see him surf, and now I don't think that anymore. I think,
Yeah,
oh, this is George Patar. He's got a nice style that I like to watch.
phenomenal style.
Yeah.
But Ethan Ewing is totally, again, don't want to jinx it, but he looks just so unflappable. Like this season, even the last couple of seasons, he's just not making mistakes. He's so strong. He's so predictable that I'm like, I just need to make it. Just got to make it through this event. He's the best bet probably.
Do you think that Griffin Colapinto, that there's trepidation and worry in the Colapinto camp about him not making the midseason cut?
Yeah, I think there is actually. But he needn't let that fester. I think that is your biggest enemy is getting in your overthinking things and second guessing yourself, changing up your game plan. Go back and watch all of his surfing this season. He's surfing incredibly. For whatever reason, he's not making his heats. That's how those are all the variables that just exist in this current contest structure. And all those variables happen to line up against him in 4 events in a row. But when you look at what he's doing, he's not making mistakes in heats and he's surfing incredibly well. And I think he's even putting up pretty decent totals, 13 point heat scores, 15 point heat scores. He's just coming up against guys who are putting up 16s.
Do you think that if Griffin Colapinto fell off tour, that he would book passage to wherever John Florence is on his boat and say, you know what, screw it, I'm out,
Definite, definitely not. That kid is only about, you
pro
know,
surfing?
yeah, only winning like competition for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So he would be
Well,
back. He'd be back real quick.
okay, good. I was worried.
I again, he needs to somehow figure out how to let the water roll off his back, basically. So strong mentality, keep doing what you're doing, keep your head down. It'll work out for you soon.
Do you kind of hope that he falls off tour just as a interesting storyline?
I wouldn't hope that on him, but as a fan, I don't miss him in the top five. I got to see him in the top five for a few years, and that was fine. But I'm excited to see Yago Dora and Jordy Smith in there now.
Yeah, Jordy. It's Jordy's year. Feels like it.
Dude, I would love nothing more than Jordy winning.
Yep.
Okay, the other big surf news that we really should have maybe opened the show with is just the passing of Greg Browning.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Yeah.
never
Heartbreaking.
never heard a negative word mentioned about Greg Browning.
Great guy. Yeah,
Did
like
you
a,
spend any time with him?
a little bit early days of surf journalism. Not a ton, but yeah, he was. I mean, that you said it exactly. And I've never heard one person say one cross word about him.
I also love to see people evolving in their career path and life,
Hmm.
and so when I was introduced to him, it was through Taylor Steele's films, and he was such a dynamic surfer. The big layback blowtail thing was he had that on lock more than anybody else, and it was so exciting. And his style was really, really cool. But then watching him transition into a filmmaker was like, I was buying every single one of those drive-through films. Um, that was really great. And then to see him kind of evolve even beyond that into kind of a mentor role and traveling with Tatiana Weston Webb and all that sort of stuff it's like a logical progression, but it all took talent. Like the surfing he was doing was totally unique in his own, incredibly talented. The film stuff was like a new take. The drive-through series was a new take on surf filmmaking that I had never seen before. And he did an incredible job with it. So he was a super talented guy who I think made meaningful contributions to surfing.
I think importantly too, he gracefully moved through each sort
Yeah.
of aspect of his career, right? Like as a surfer, he handled being a professional surfer in the spotlight with real grace, right? And same with once he went kind of behind the camera, or wasn't he in the first couple drive-throughs?
Hmm.
Yeah, and then but knowing when to get out of the way, knowing when to get entirely behind the camera, just all of this, it seemed like I don't know, just a real gracious man.
Totally agree. Yeah, knowing when to exit is something I admire more and more as I get older.
Yep.
And you see people clinging on to their previous, you see Uncle Rico trying to throw a stake over a mountain or whatever
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah. I mean, and an inability to adjust too, right? Like being locked into what you do without just holding tighter and tighter to that instead of thinking, oh, okay, this is my natural next step. This is a evolution, a mature thing to do, to move on this way.
I want to go back now that I think about it and rewatch the drive through Japan. I
Yeah.
think that was the first one. Maybe California was the first one they did. Now that I think about it, but Japan was the first one I remember buying, and everything about it, like the art direction of like the DVD itself, and then the music choices, the graphics, all of it was like really, really well conceived and cohesive. Um, But I think you're right. It was like he was wanted to go on a surf trip with friends, realized we need to monetize it somehow. I'll bring a camera along, and sure, I'll do some of the surfing, but you know, I'll film it. I will help organize it, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, love it. Sad to see him go.
Yep. Rest in peace, Greg Browning.
ALS seems to be a real nightmare.
Oh man, yeah, don't want it.
Definitely don't. Um, I've got a follow-up call that kind of dovetails with your most recent episode of Chess Smith Hates Surfing. Do you want to give people what was the episode about?
It was mostly just about cool dictators, about the World Surf League's pivot from being on the very cutting edge of progression. They themselves really pushing out, right? Like yeah, LGBTQ flags on jerseys and the equal pay and everything about the World Surf League was like on the bleeding edge of this is progressive. That's what we are. We are the world's most progressive sports league. And then flipping the script very quickly this year to both doing Abu Dhabi and then El Salvador, which like very clearly we go where the money is. If anyone will pay us money, if any, nobody is too dark. And I'm not saying that El Salvador's president is bad or that Abu Dhabi is bad or that United Arab Emirates are bad, but they certainly, none of those places certainly share the values that the World Surf League really put forward hard. And then the World Surf League, it's not like, hey, we're in El Salvador. It's the nonstop praise. It was very clear that, hey, this is, you got paid, you say good things, a lot of good things. And that's what they did.
And
Sports washing
borrow
is what we call it.
Yeah, and borrow our helicopter to go tour the country and surf other spots as well.
Yep.
And document that and make it look good. Can you give a quick definition of sports washing before we play this call?
Sports washing is when, for example, I think the best idea or best example is Saudi Arabia. Is having trouble with its image a little bit. Women couldn't drive until very recently without their husband or a male in the car, all of this kind of stuff that goes along with Saudi Arabia. They say, let's buy or start a golf league. And then people will look at the golf and they'll like the golf and they won't pay attention to our human rights abuses.
Okay. Got it. Okay, here is a listener call from Liz in Portugal who has sent a few emails in the last couple of months that we've played or read. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear this.
Hey, Charles and David. This is Liz in Portugal, a longtime listener and frequent contributor. So this is probably for the grit. I just wanted to call attention to the situation in El Salvador, given the popularity of surf there now and the fact that the ISA is about to hold, I think it's longboarding contest there, and also, of course, the WSL contest and all of the surf tourism that's being promoted. I'm wondering if it's time not only to call out the sports washing that Chaz has been calling out of El Salvador, but also begin to encourage people to perhaps quietly protest the activities of the U.S. government and the self-professed dictator in El Salvador by not going there. Hey guys, listen.
Real quickly, her call got cut off, so she called back, and this is the second portion.
And I was pontificating too much, but I just think that as surfers, maybe we have a responsibility. And I know historically, yes, we have traveled to countries and surfed and enjoyed the waves where the political situation was tenuous at best and just completely violating human rights at worst. But given what's happening across the world, I just wonder if it's not a time to take a stance, because even as you were discussing on Noble Rot today, the Supreme Court in the United States and the courts in the United States don't even have power to help people who have been wrongfully deported to a mega prison, or one person in particular. So just wondering what your thoughts are on this, and if you think maybe the surf community, I mean, how much power do we have? But if we start protesting with our money and not giving it to El Salvador, or even other countries that commit human rights violations, maybe this is a quiet way to protest without getting overtly political and potentially deported ourselves. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Love the work that you're doing, and keep work.
I, I know you have thoughts on this. I'll start off by saying I do more and more, I guess, feel this kind of tension within me of like seeing atrocities, but not really knowing how to get involved or feeling that if I can't make a difference anyways. And so I actually think it is worth discussing what our roles are in these things. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, 1000%. And thank you so much, Liz, for the call, and for thinking about this kind of stuff. I think it is important for us as surfers and as humans and people, especially in this, I think, what was hyper tense time that we live in,
Yeah.
where everything is really pitched and everything is very, I don't know, choices and what you do or don't do, what you say or don't say. Everything is under a microscope these days, I feel, and crazy temp or and so yeah, like I do think it's important. I think it's important that we say what we feel, uh, and that we also don't harshly judge people who feel differently, right? But I think very on a very basic, simple level, I know that El Salvador had a major, obviously massive, huge gang crisis, right? Mara Salvatrucha was insidious and basically ruling the country. I think it was had the highest murder rate in the world or something. And now it has the lowest, right? So great. But how did it get the lowest? Has now the highest incarceration rate in the world per capita of, men aged 18 to 35 locked up. So they locked up a huge part of the population. No due process, no nothing. And I suppose on one side, security hawks could say, well, that's the price of security. For me and my house, I think locking people up without due process, I would never want that. Would you want to be locked up and like, oh, sorry, didn't do nothing, but wrong place, wrong time, and or wrong age, wrong color, wrong whatever. Where I think as surfers, personal freedom should be a kind of real, peak shared uh ideal that we all have. And places that aren't about or like ripping people's freedoms away, we should be wary of, or at least critical of.
So I agree. However, I also recognize that like I'm grateful that I was raised in an era and a place where things were comfy and cozy, so I never needed to take any of that too seriously. And
Yeah.
so if they did this, if El Salvador decided that they had to make the changes that they needed to make, I mean, I don't know a way to do things without making a few mistakes along the way, like they don't have all of, I don't know. It's just a tremendous amount of work and organization and logistics to do things perfectly correctly. They probably don't have the resources to do due process because things were that bad.
And again, I'm not trying to shade heavily El Salvador, but also when you have the leader calling himself the world's coolest dictator and things like that, I mean, it is bending authoritarian there. And of
Yes.
course, and I get it. I get what people, women and children were getting, slaughtered in the streets. We can't have this anymore, right? We've
Right.
got to clean this up and can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs and all that. But it seems the way El Salvador is bending is more and more and more totalitarian, which I think is, as surfers, again, we should not be down with totalitarianism.
No, definitely not. So then the question is, I think Liz's main question is, what's our level of responsibility here, or how do you exercise your um, discontent?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Don't go to El Salvador.
to each his own, I feel. If you feel strongly about the human rights violations, then definitely don't go to El Salvador. There's plenty other places to go that, have right points. Talk about it. I mean, I think people are getting more and more, rightly, more and more scared to say what they feel. And it's a toxic climate in that way, I think. And, just the clamping down of free speech. I feel the pendulum has swung pretty wildly in the last couple of years from you can't say anything that's going to be critical of any, what is termed as woke. You're not allowed to basically say anything unwoke or you're going to get canceled. Now that's swung crazy over all of a sudden. And now you're not allowed to say anything critical about, you know, authoritarian government policies or this stuff, or, who knows, there could be an IRS is going to come knocking at your door. It feels like a bunch of systems have been weaponized against free speech. And that seems scary to me. But the way I think you can counter it is if people continue to speak as freely as they can about what they believe.
I think something to keep in mind here is anybody who's feeling the need to exercise their kind of viewpoint or protest. Um, these things, like going and getting involved in a protest, you're not going to see immediate change ultimately. And so there's these, when you see these massive political or government regimes making sweeping change that feels to you immoral or inhuman or even criminal in a lot of these cases, um, that's when you can really galvanize the biggest change, but it's not necessarily going to happen immediately. Like go to a protest and maybe that activates a passion in you that you then make your you vote differently, certainly, but maybe you make different professional choices. Maybe you end up becoming a lawyer or a lawmaker because of this, and you won't see that. Or maybe you just inspire some young person who's watching the protest to go do those things. And then you are in a position 5 years from now or 10 years from now where you do have some power and you can make change. But to just feel, I don't think we have the luxury. I personally feel like as an American at this point, this juncture in our history, I don't have that same privilege that I had when I was young to just be apathetic.
Yeah, to ignore it.
I feel like I now have a responsibility to get involved, even if it is in that small way that doesn't seem to be making change now. It's a seed that can, if you don't do anything, nothing happens. So you got to do something. And then you might not see the benefit of it for 10 years from now or 30 years from now or whatever. But when your kid is an adult, you're going to be pretty happy that you did something and that you didn't do nothing. Because again, we just don't have the luxury of being silent or apathetic at this point when you're seeing these atrocities.
And I feel at this point it's become a moral imperative as well. It's not just, I think things are so bad, so many places that it's become it's a moral imperative to at least say something, or I'm sorry, not even say anything, at least pay attention, right? I think that paying attention to what's going on, not burying head in sand, being aware, trying to learn, trying to educate, trying to understand that this world is different.
Paying attention, absolutely. And that, I think for me, one of the parts, I don't know that I'm more critical now of like news sources, like I think when I was growing up, I would just see a headline. It was from a reputable quote unquote source or just a source, like it was a professional corporation. It's like that must be truth. And so now at this phase of my life, all of those things have been shaken up, of course, but I'm much more critical and assessing the validity of those sources. And I almost don't believe any of them. It's the exact opposite now. Where I believed 99% of them to be true before, I now believe 1% of them to be true. And so paying attention allows me to run this kind of more sophisticated calculus in my mind of where the truth actually lies. And I think that's the first step for me because I'm apprehensive to even speak about El Salvador
Yeah.
because I'm not an expert, and
Well,
the only information I've gotten is from headline news sources that are probably not all accurate. So I have to, but I'm now engaged in the conversation, and I'm now going to the country, and that's all part of it.
yeah, and I'm not meaning to be specifically critical of El Salvador. I don't know enough about this. I know very little about the situation there. I know the troubles. I know, obviously they're building giant mega prisons, but even there, for me, I get it. I get security. I mean, I have the luxury to have security, more security in America, and
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine what it would feel like just to live in chaos, a fear of getting gunned down on the street or your family gunned down on the street. On the one hand, on the other hand, there's no way I can support a country who's like basically now your main industry is building giant prisons to house not only a ton of your own population, but hey, send your people over here too. We love big jail. And I think big jail, nobody, that should never be, the end. I mean, of people. I can't, I mean, jail as, and maybe this is straight pie in the sky, but jail is rehabilitation. And maybe a lot of these people can't be rehabilitated. You just have to, they're so bad that you just got to keep them off the street. And, I don't know, is what it is. But building mega prisons doesn't seem to be a very reasonable thing to do.
There's places in the world where rehabilitation is the purpose of the jail, Norway or something like
Yeah.
that. Um, and they have a bunch of success stories. And I always marvel when I see that stuff. I'm like, wow, what a great concept. Because
Yeah.
that but is definitely not the purpose of prison or jail in the US. And it's definitely not for El Salvador either. Um, so that's
Do you,
worth noting.
you remember Idiocracy rehabilitation?
No.
Rehabilitation. That's when they throw the people into the ring and have them get mowed down with cars and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I need to rewatch that. We've referenced it so much in the last 5 years that I
Yeah,
really should rewatch it.
really funny.
Um, the other thought that I'll just kind of end with, I guess, is, and I struggle with this. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. The more I learn, or the more I do kind of get engaged and try to pay attention and make a critical assessment, the more I realize I don't know anything at all. Um, and so it makes I guess the flip side of that is it makes me super, super
Timid?
no, 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 judgmental of the people who have strong opinions. Because
Yeah.
the people in my life who are like they have this dogmatic political view. Maybe it's just like they just toe the party line, like I'm a Republican and I just do what the Republican part I vote Republican or I vote Democratic or whatever it is with no just like these are the rules, this is the way I'm doing it. I'm like, I don't know, the more that I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything. So if you can feel so strongly about the way that you feel, it really shows a lack of critical thinking.
I mean, I think the inability also to recognize that whatever you feel, whatever your position is, to I think there's so much today of the other side having no validity, right? I mean, I think the Israel-Gaza war is a prime example of, people who are pro-Palestinian say like basically saying that early whatever October 7th or whenever it was when, Hamas flew over the border and, murdered 1,200 Israelis, whatever it was, and took a bunch of hostages. Well, like, well, write that off. Like that's because they were pressured to do that. They were in a kettle and it just got too hot. Of course, it's going to, not being able to say, yeah, that is a tragedy. That is a tragedy. And for those who are pro-Israel, to say the death, the absolute slaughter of 50,000 women and children, by and large, is not a horrific, horrific tragedy. The inability to say that, to say, well, they had it
Right.
coming. Like on both those sides, I feel if you can't look at the other side and say, yes, and I feel this way, but I understand this tragedy on the other side.
If you can't do that, then the thing will never fully be resolved.
Yeah.
Because it will end at some point, but the losing party will harbor a ton of animosity and they're going to lash back. And it might 100 years from now, maybe, who knows when, but it's not actually resolved.
Yeah. Nope.
It was never put to bed.
But then for us who are not there but are able to opine, right? I just think that yes, learn, but also understand that the other side does have points. The other side does have, there's a reason. There's a sense behind what's happening. And to write it off as crazy or criminal or, and some parts of it may be crazy and criminal, but there is still reason.
Yeah.
And looking for reason as opposed to just looking to shore up one's own opinion about it.
So will you be going to if you got invited on a surf trip to El Salvador, would you go?
Yes, because I don't feel so strongly about I would definitely go if I got invited. If the government asked me, they said, "Hey, we'll pay for you to come down here in exchange for that, wink wink. We expect cover it how you want, but with the tacit, you better cover it well." I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't do that either. I think I would go to El Salvador again. And part of the reason is my interaction with the people of El Salvador,
Yeah.
like they don't, regardless of what their president is doing or their dictator is doing, they don't deserve to suffer. You know,
Yeah.
like they're good people running great businesses, doing a phenomenal job at it. And so if I can go and support the local economy, I feel like that's actually doing good as opposed to boycotting the country as a whole and then those individual human beings suffering.
Yes, exactly. And as it relates to El Salvador, again, my beef is really with the World Surf League, just straight up sports washing, right? There's no like reference, and not that they should go down and reference like, well, we're in El Salvador and El Salvador's in the news because of this giant jail that's right over there. Look at that thing, right? Like that's unnecessary, but also the way that the praise was so flowery and nonstop of El Salvador, best country in the world, was seemed wrong.
It just seems a little disingenuous because there was major news stories happening in El Salvador at the time that the WSL is there.
Yeah,
So when I flip over from the WSL's viewing, I'm watching El Salvador news and it's
yeah,
huge. It's like my family's asking me about it. And then switch back to the WSL and there's no commentary at all. And I understand like the position they're in. There's no easy way. I mean, even
no,
you and I are going to get tons of flack today because this is going to be couched as a quote political conversation and this
yeah.
is supposed to be a certain. There's no way to have a conversation about these things without people getting upset about it, basically.
And absolutely, absolutely. But that's why I'm happy to be having this conversation today because it is important to sometimes and again, I'm not being political. I don't think you're being political, but it's important to be able to even the fact that we have to be so worried about and not that we have to be worried about it, like somebody stops listening, that's not the end of the world. But uh World Surf League, I guess the stakes are a lot higher, but the fact that you can't even mention it, you just have to pretend things aren't head in sand, things are not happening because
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I'm too scared.
No, it is. That's a problematic thing about the current era that we're living in. Um, I will remind people if you do decide to protest any of these things, as we learned a couple years ago in Barrel or Nah, bring a parrot to the protest.
Exactly.
A parrot on your shoulder draws a lot of attention. It starts replicating everything that you're saying. It's a very effective method of protest.
It is the best, the most effective, I would argue.
Exactly. You might have to work on training that parrot, or you could just rent one that already knows how to speak and mimic
Yeah.
you and all that sort of thing. But you'll end up on the news. Your message will go a lot further with a parrot on your shoulder, basically, is what I'm saying.
Good advice.
Final thought on that call is how surprised are you when a listener mentions that ISA is having a longboard event somewhere in the world?
Oh, poor longboarding. Longboarding didn't get into the LA 28 Olympics. Poor longboarding.
I'm just like, number one, how are you
How do you know?
tracking the longboard competitive scene that detailed? Number two, how are you tracking the ISA's movements that, like, I pay attention to surfing all the time. I have
Yeah.
no idea what the ISA's next move is.
No idea where they are. No idea what contests are doing. Zero idea. Zero care.
Zero idea who won the last one. Zero
Nope.
idea what it means if they win this one. Zero idea of how many repechage heats are going to take place this time. No understanding why it was started 2 weeks ago and it's still going next week. It's like,
Yeah. It's crazy town. No idea how there's even 400 surfers who can be in a heat. I mean, in a contest.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Was your heart broken a little bit when you saw that the Olympics will not be including longboarding?
No, I was like all things longboarding. I was shocked that it was even being discussed.
Me too. Were you so also in other surf news, the Olympics decided on Lower Trestles as the venue for surfing for 2028. The
Sure
Olympics will be
did.
held in Los Angeles, of course. Do you have any thoughts on that, or are you happy about it?
Nope and nope. I think Calm Turin in Beach Grit's comments was real mad. He was fiery about we've saved Trestles before, we're going to have to save it again, which that was the first time I actually thought, oh, yeah, they're going to build a bunch of infrastructure probably. But in my mind, I was just thinking, are they going to really do anything different than what the WSL does when they're there? Like some tents, right? It'll be ticketed for sure, but what infrastructure is going to get built? I suppose they'll probably have to do a bigger, like tower or set, maybe, right? I mean,
I
but
really don't know.
I didn't think about that. If they're going to build a bunch of stuff and like wreck sand flow and all that at Trestles, then that's not a great idea.
I don't think they would. I mean, they're definitely not going to build anything in the water. It would all be on land. And I think
Isn't that the worry though, that you'd like change the sand flow, which then wrecks the break? And
not if they're building it on land. I mean, and I really can't imagine that they would be making permanent changes. That's all like state park, probably protected land, I would imagine. I
yeah,
mean, unless there was going to be like the previous fight to save Trestles was huge
the
moneyed,
road.
yeah, huge moneyed interests trying to basically make profit off
Yeah.
doing this thing. And so that's where you're going to really run into a fight. But with this, where they're coming in temporarily, I can't imagine. I mean, obviously, we had this conversation about Tahiti just recently, but that was because they were building it on the reef. Once they're doing it on land, I can't imagine it would be permanently damaging.
Are you happy that it is San Clemente or Lowers, not Huntington Beach?
Yeah, yeah. I think, I mean, in terms of what is the right venue to showcase surfing the best you can around Southern California, Lowers is the right spot. The only other option would be Malibu, but or the wave pools, of course. And so I think Lowers is the best pick out of all of those.
What about the idea of offshoring it like Paris did?
That'd be phenomenal.
Send it to where is a good US territory that has waves in July?
Puerto Rico, maybe?
Does Puerto Rico get surf in July?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, ultimately the baller move would be if they could do it during the Winter Olympics and then do it in Hawaii.
It's funny. I read someone write that. In the fight over U.S. The whatever U.S. governing body, Olympic governing body, USA Surfing or U.S. Surfing lost their charter, I think in 2020, 2021 maybe, because of bad financials. And they're trying to get it back. But U.S. Ski and Snowboard is also trying to get, the surfing under their banner. And somebody said winter surfing should be a winter sport. And that's the first time I ever thought that. And I was like, oh, of course it should be. It should be in the Winter Olympics.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer
Yeah.
if you're into surfing.
Yeah. If you know surfing.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go to commercial break and then we will be back with Barrel or Not. Right, Chaz, welcome back.
So good to be here. Real quick. I have a 9:30. Gotta take the kid to the doctor.
Okay, let me text Shea real quick and tell him to log on at 9:10.
Stinking doctor's appointments, man.
Is she okay?
She is. This is the third time I've done it or we've done it. And so this time she's in this allergy program. She has nut allergies, but they have you get like micro doses of them. But it means you have to go to the doctor. It's like every Friday for 2.5 hours and it's like such a process that I've like given up halfway 2 other times. So this time I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna see this one through.
Yeah. Bummer, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back from commercial, Chaz, for Barrel or Nah.
Great to be here.
I never thought about this one before, but kind of curious if you have thoughts. Squatty potty. DLS and Chaz, our bodies evolved to poop in a squat. Modern sitting toilets are relatively recent in history. I've been a user of these little footstools for years and cannot fathom going without it. In fact, I dread having to poop at a toilet where I don't have my beloved little stool elevating my feet to the proper height. Squatty potty is big time barrel. Keep pooping. Jonah from Barrington.
Man, Jonah, I know here's one of these things that it's right, it's true. The science, I think, is in on all of this, right? Uh, sitting down the way we do is not good. It is not the way we were supposed to do this. And so we're causing problems both with our all of it, right? It's a problem. Science is in. Take my word for it, David Lee Scales. But it's one of the things I'm like, well, I'm not willing to compromise. So I know it's bad for me. I'm going to do it anyway.
Well, Jonah from Barrington isn't telling you that you have to install some new
No,
contraption
no,
or
it's the
toilet.
stool. I
It's
know
just get the stool.
the
It's a simple
stool.
fix.
I can't do it. I cannot do it. It's undignified. I don't like it. I would rather die early than do that.
So I have I don't know why people send us this stuff. I guess I do know why people send us this stuff. I've gotten this squatty potty thing over the years. A number of people like reach out of the blue and they're like, "Hey man, pooping with your feet elevated is a
Yeah.
game changer."
Yeah.
And I've never taken those emails very seriously until they added up. And I read this and I'm like, I'm open to the idea, but pooping hasn't been problematic for me. Is this something that maybe you hit 50 or 60 and then you're having a harder time and that makes it easier?
No, I think it's just like you are doing slow damage. Your body is, it's not optimal. What you're doing, what I'm doing is not optimal, right? There's an
I don't know.
optimal
It
way
works
to,
fine for me
yeah, but there's a better way. You just think it's fine because that's all you know. There's a better way out there. You'll somehow feel better. Everything will move. I don't know what, because I don't do it.
I
So
guess
I
that's
can't do
where
it.
we're at. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Jonah, right? Yeah, Jonah from Barrington, please email back and let us know what the benefits are.
Yes. I
And then
mean,
I'd
yeah,
be open to it. If you said
I'm
like
not.
if he says it cleans out your intestine or your colon or whatever, and you feel lighter, you're sharper, you're more spry, you're more whatever, you have more energy, you sleep better. I'd be like, well, those are all worthwhile benefits. I'll give this a trial run for 1 week
Even with all those things, I still say, nope, I'll sleep bad. I'll be unhealthy. I can't do it.
because you don't want your feet elevated.
Kind of. It's a look that I can't go for.
Here's what I don't understand either. Can't you just elevate your feet? Like, I know he's saying he has that at home, and when he's out away from home, he dreads the idea. Well, when you're in those scenarios, couldn't you just elevate your feet slightly
I
or
think it's
push up
part of
against the bathroom stall with your foot or something?
I think part of it is your feet being like high and relaxed or something.
Maybe the resistance, maybe pushing against something.
But I don't think you're pushing on the stool. I think your feet are just up and like not like if you hold your feet up or whatever, then now you're like all contorting your muscles.
Well, what about if he just stands up on the
Yeah,
edge of the toilet?
I think people do that. I think there are people who stand. I mean, you see the signs in bathrooms. Where do I see them most? Yeah, I think in the Middle East, they'll have pictures of people standing on the toilet seat, squatting, and then X'd out. Like, don't do that.
Because it'll break the porcelain or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. They don't want people doing that, but you could do that.
Are toilets still made out of porcelain?
I don't think so. It
I
can't be,
doubt it.
right? I think
No,
they're
it
metal.
can't be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're holding off. I'm going nah for now. Send me more information.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll even open up. I'll even be open to this
Okay.
with
All
the
right.
right information.
Jonah, this weighs on your shoulders.
Yep.
Barrel or non number two, reclining your airplane seat. Howdy, boys. Barrel or not, reclining your airplane seat. At first glance, the answer is obvious, barrel. After all, who doesn't want to be 10% more comfortable on an airplane? But by reclining your seat, you make the person in the seat behind you 50% less comfortable by eating up what meager personal space they once had. The amount of hatred in my heart when a passenger in front of me reclines into my space never ceases to shock me. I take it personally! Exclamation point. How dare they be so inconsiderate? My rational brain knows that is a ridiculous response. They have every right to recline, and still I silently fume. By way of background, I'm 6'2" and 200 pounds and always uncomfortable in an airplane seat. And as a courtesy to my fellow passenger, I never recline. Am I alone in this? Am I the only fool that doesn't recline? What do you say? Barrel or nah, work, Steve?
Thank you, Steve. I'm 100% exactly with you here. I get enraged if people recline into me, especially like at mealtime and stuff, right? I mean, where my rage comes, I'm sorry, I don't get enraged if they recline. I get enraged if the person in front of them is not reclined and they recline. Because all of a sudden now I feel we're all in this together, right? If nobody reclines, I feel everybody's better off. I feel the not you're sitting, right? It's what exactly as he said, your 10% more comfort is not worth
50% discomfort.
50% on the backside.
Yeah.
And if everyone reclines, it's not like everyone is 10% more comfortable. I feel the entire plane is now 30% less comfortable, right? Everybody's reclining, so it's cutting that 50% down, but still everybody's 30% more uncomfortable.
40
Everybody
because
keep
you got the 10%, but you're 50% from the front, so that 40.
Yeah, 40%. And so everybody keep it up. And if I mean especially the ones who like, so if the person reclines in front of you, you have to recline, right? You can't just live in that cramped space. So you got to let go and give in. It's the person who needs shame is the person who's reclining, who the person in front of them is not, because that's the evildoer.
I live by Steve's code of conduct, believe it or not. I don't ever recline. Even if the
Yeah,
person in front of me
really?
reclines, I don't recline.
You just sit there with a TV screen pressing against your forehead?
I do. I
Good
suck it up
man. Good man.
because it's, I mean, Steve was writing my own thoughts from my head down into his email. This is exactly what I go through. The person in front of me, I don't really fume as much as I used to because I've just accepted the reality that we live in this disgraceful society now. But I used to fume about it. Now it's just I'm almost expecting them to do it and I'm shocked if they don't. But I will often be working on my laptop and my laptop, I mean, it's pushed up against that seat and then they
Yeah.
go recline and it starts to like it could flex the screen. If it does it exactly wrong, like the
Yeah.
edge of the TV pushes on the top of the screen, it could break the screen, you know?
Yep.
So I've learned to kind of be create a little grace room right there. And it is infuriating when they do it, but I'm not going to impose that on my fellow passenger behind me. I just suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah. I wish I had that much fortitude. I am okay. Well, here we go then. If you're reclining on me, I've got to. And now we're all uncomfortable thanks to you, person who's reclining. But only the person I'm mad at is the person who's reclining who is not being forced to recline. The person who gets on and just slams it straight back
Which
without anyone bending in on their space.
which is why we have to do the public service here to deem this a no barrel and let people know do not recline your airplane seat. It is a no barrel. The 10% is not worth the 50% imposition you're putting on the person behind you.
Exactly. 100% agree.
I have seen, I don't know if this is a real product, but I've seen on the internet a product where it's like a little clamp thing that you can put on the seat in front of you that prevents them from reclining.
Oh, really?
It's a little clamp blockade.
How does it
But
work?
it just, I can't even describe it, but it fits right onto the metal mechanism on the chair where it would create the little bit of give that allows their chair to go back. It kind of fills that gap and blocks it so that it
Oh,
can't go
amazing.
back.
Amazing. That's
So
fun.
you could just sit in your seat and put that on quietly. Nobody would ever notice. It's really discreet, and that person will just think their chair is broken and they can't recline.
Great idea. I'm going to invest.
All right, final barrel or not. Responding to birthday posts on Facebook. Hey, DLS and Chaz, longtime listener here. I've got a barrel or not. I don't ever post on Facebook, but on birthdays, there are the standard happy birthday wishes on my page. Do you respond by making a thank you post? Do you respond to each one individually or just the most recent favorite? Or do you just ignore all the posts entirely? So, barrel or not? Second note, oh, then he asks me some El Salvador questions. So,
uh, I'm sorry, Facebook. It is a no barrel. Facebook is a like whatever kind of death knell is or death knock is happening there in Facebook. When it's my birthday and I go to Facebook and I see, whatever, 30 happy birthdays. I like it, right? It's like, thank you for thinking of me in this total dead place that's just swirling the drain, right? And so not that I don't appreciate it, but I'm not going to I, I don't care about Facebook at all. I have Facebook for work to post things. I don't even know if it works. I don't know if anything I ever put on Facebook gets clicked by anyone. I'm sure you have to actually engage with Facebook to get Facebook to work for you.
It's a it absolutely is circling the drain in terms of its relevance or its impact and all that stuff. Um, and it's always shocking to me. I meet people, DJ Seaweed is one of them actually, in El Salvador. We were talking about Instagram and he's like, I don't really go on Instagram anymore. He's like, I just mainly do Facebook. I was like, what? And I've heard that a few times from different adults. And so I guess maybe it isn't circling the drain now that I think about it, if people are using it.
I wonder if Facebook is like vinyl. If Facebook is like, hey man, everybody went to CD and then MP3s and Spotify and all that, but nothing beats just sitting down and putting a disc on the record player and putting the needle down and sit. Like if Facebook is actually better, we've just all got on to CDs, i.e. Instagram or TikTok. But if we just came home, it'd be a more robust experience. You can engage. It's like I read somewhere in, oh, they were talking about it in the Meta lawsuit right now, that, you know, Zuckerberg is in Congress. And part of what they were using to say it's a monopoly is, I can't remember how this was even relevant, but they talked Facebook. Zuckerberg had spoken of a couple years back, erasing everybody's friends and making them start over, building their community, except doing it as a follower model. And that's the first time I've thought about that, really. I do like the idea on Facebook, they're your friends, as opposed to Instagram and all this, they're followers. Like, what a weird thing. But I think it's tapping into that human, you know, I want people to follow me. I want followers, like friends, whatever, followers. But so maybe it's time we all go back to Facebook now that I think about it, with our friends, not just trying to
Yeah,
make weirdo followers.
I'm not going back. I'd rather vanquish all of it from my life
Yeah.
than
I mean, it's true,
go
but
back.
but you kind of have to have something. I mean, you have to, it is a platform. It's a way for people to engage engage. It's a way to engage with others. I am not anti-social media. I completely see the value in it. I'm going to experiment this week and go back to Facebook. I'm going to spend some time on Facebook poking around. I'll hit up DJ Seaweed and we'll get in a conversation on Facebook.
Have him
And
show you the way.
I'll report back next week on if my life is better.
Yeah, you can get a bunch of articles out of this too.
Yeah.
I'm the birthday thing has really gone through different ebbs and flows where even when I got off Facebook, I would still oblige the birthday posts. And I'd
One by
actually
one. Hey, thanks.
there was a period, yes, where I would do that. And then I
Hey,
think I
thanks.
evolved past that to where I would at least log on and see them. But they all made me feel good, surprisingly. Like, I don't think that I need that type of attention or adulation, but then I wake up on, my
Yeah.
birthday and I have 55 posts from people that I haven't talked to in 10 years or whatever. And
You're
I'm
like,
like, hey,
cool.
that's nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of a cool little thing.
Yeah.
Um, Taking the time to do it though is at this point in my life a bridge too far. Like,
Taking time to say thank you or taking time to, yeah.
yeah, taking
But
time to say thank you, it's just that's way too much typing. I don't have 1 hour.
are
Because
you gonna
the other thing is I don't like just giving meaningless thank yous. Like I want to say something nice and each one's probably going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to copy and paste the answers.
what about the blanket though? The post that you make, hey, for everyone who reached out, thank you so much. Felt good knowing that I was being thought about on Facebook.
No. I'm not going to make a Facebook post. That's a bridge way too far. The other thing is I don't log on for years at a time now and then occasionally I have to for some reason to like check a notification or a message or something. the the layout is all so different than whenever I was engaging on there that I don't even know where to type things. I don't know where to search
That's
for
true.
things.
That's true.
It's so confusing to me now.
That's true. I know how to post something. That's all I know.
I don't. I know I post on Instagram and it automatically posts on Facebook for me, but I wouldn't know how to go over to Facebook and make an actual individual post.
We need DJ Seaweed on Patreon this coming week to walk us through Facebook 2.0.
We officially feel we are old people at this
Yeah.
point
If I mean, I don't know if that makes us old or if that makes us young, not knowing how to use Facebook.
because old people use Facebook.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Things have really flip-flopped for us.
Yep.
Cool. Well, DJ, we're waiting for Shea Somma. All right. Well, let's close out the show. I wanted Shea Somma to come on and give us a little teaser here so we can
Yes,
entice people over to Patreon, but
we
I
can
don't think he's
entice
going to. Yeah, we can
Shay.
just entice them ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, by the way, did you say that you got a hand plane from Shea?
Yes. And Pipo.
A Pipo. So it's the
Yeah.
size of a bodyboard?
A little smaller than a bodyboard.
Okay.
Yeah. Or
Way bigger than a hand plane.
way bigger than a hand plane, way smaller than a bodyboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I need to buy a hand plane.
You could talk to Shea Soma about Pipos too.
Okay.
Shea Soma got me. I mean, I still haven't ridden my Pipo. I need to. I
Okay.
think I'm waiting for summer. I don't feel like going out on my Pipo in a wetsuit, probably. Uh, but I'm gonna definitely take that thing out this summer.
There was one dude on our El Salvador trip who was on his own program basically. And it took me a few days to figure out the program he was on. I just thought he didn't want to surf or something, and was kind of dismissing his ability level because of those decisions he was making. And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go body surf out at the point, like at where everybody's sitting battling for waves. I'm gonna go body surf out there." And I was like, "Dude, what are you? You're a kook. Like what? That you're gonna create havoc in the lineup. You're gonna get slammed. It's like a cobblestone point. You're gonna get slammed on the cobbles because body surfers are gonna take off not on the set waves but on insiders. And then I saw him walking up the cobbles while I was in the water, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna get detonated trying to paddle out right in the impact zone." He made it out, positioned himself perfectly into waves, and got the sickest rides. Obviously, he had fins on, but he did have the benefit of the hand plane, and it was super impressive to watch. And he did not have to deal with any of the melee or the crowd or the positioning or the battling that we were dealing with. He was just always on it. He was just on great waves constantly. Yeah, 20 rides.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Revelation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
So I love the idea of kind of opening up the aperture and having more options.
Shea Soma will talk glowingly about. He will explain, just like he will the Mini Super or Super Mini. He will also he'll talk about pipoing in a way that will make you instantly want to get a pipo.
Okay, perfect. Well, speak of the devil himself.
Shea Soma.
I'm going to ask him to unmute.
Unmute.
I can hear you. We cannot see you.
Yep.
There he
Okay.
is.
Shea, freshly haircutted. I'm used to seeing.
You know, I had to wear the hat.
Oh my
Oh
God.
man.
It was yesterday.
After
Okay.
getting a haircut, and then realizing, why did I get a haircut? Because now, I mean, I'm just gonna wear a hat for so long at this point. I might as
I
well
like
not
that
have gotten
you
my haircut.
immediately called me out. The first thing you said.
Well, you have a vision of you, and it is with these gorgeous locks. So
I'm
surprised.
a once every 6 months to a year haircut person.
Do you do it yourself?
No, I have a barber, Ben. Ben hooks it up, and Ben does a great job. No disparaging Ben. It's just a brand new haircut is always a thing, a delicate thing.
Do you ever change facial hair?
I've in the past I had been known to switch it up a little bit, but for years it's just been beard.
So have you switched it up since you've had a child?
No, although I think that could be disturbing for the
If
child.
you
Maybe.
if you want to absolutely make your child hate you, like run into the other room screaming, just mix it up somehow. Come in, it could be mutton chops, any kind of mix up on the facial hair. You recognize how like your kid has a vision of you, and if you mess with that vision, you literally take out the foundation from your child. Like they don't know what's real anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
Save that thought. We're running out of time because Chaz has a hard out. But Shea,
Yes.
tell people why they should come join us on Patreon.
Oh, sure. Because more Chaz and David. What more do you want?
Well, what are you going to tell them about today on Patreon?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Today I'm talking about I'm guessing Mini Simmons, the maybe the details of the design, the benefits of that style of board for people surfing average waves. That's what I think they're really applicable to, is the average surf in Southern California in general, really, where you're surfing less than perfect waves. So if you want to nerd out on board design, but also kind of understand what makes them tick, then this discussion will be helpful for that.
It's helpful for me because I don't know, actually. So we're going to go over to Patreon right now. We're signing off on the grid. So we will see you guys on Patreon. And until next week.
Keep working.